Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. It's News Done Differently for the 22nd day of March, the year 2022, 10:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time officially. And less than an hour ago, tornadoes ripped through parts of New Orleans, Louisiana. We're getting the first look at some of the video that's beginning to come in. And it is our lead story for the night. And our follow-up story is quite interesting too. Thank you for watching. Once again, it's News Done Differently. And hold on. Here we go. A second video from New Orleans, Louisiana. Again, earlier this evening, less than an hour ago, tornadoes ripped through the eastern part of New Orleans, and we're just getting some of that, some of the first information in. Yet another scene of the debris, the damage, and then a look at the actual tornado itself. Looks like a multi-vortex, at least twins. And when you see those big flashes, that's taking out power lines. And oddly enough, I spent a lot of time this afternoon watching tornado chasing, just to divert a little bit from everything that's going on war-wise. But we begin this show with prayers, positive vibrations, good wishes, whatever you can mentally, spiritually send to all the people that are impacted in all the videos we're going to show tonight, because we've got a lot to get to. And again, I want to thank you for watching, and like, share, subscribe. Last night we talked about the fact that the FBI would not be having their quarterly report on crimes committed against those based upon race, gender, or ethnicity, otherwise known as hate crimes, and that the police departments weren't sending enough information in to get a hate crime trial, or a hate crime statistic figured out. Well, it's a little worse than that. They won't be releasing any quarterly stats from 2021 because not enough police departments disclosed any information. In a free society, we should find that troubling, that the police departments who are socialist, socialism is when the people pay for something that is for the common good of society, and that's what police are. I would think that people would want to make sure that their dollars were being spent effectively. Now, if you're okay with no statistics being presented, we've got another story coming up. What you're seeing here is Larry Ray. His trial was interrupted again today in New York City. He's a He's been charged as a sex trafficker, and for the second day in a row, he's come under stress in the trial and have to be removed. I want to touch on this real quick while we're on the news line here. The official website helpgov.ua has launched this website. Those of you that have asked how we help Ukraine, and I've given you some examples in past episodes, helping with the zoo, helping with getting pets in and out. Sorry, my heater kicked off. It's cold here. Helping directly, and also possibly sending messages to the citizens of Russia. This is kind of a hub that gives you access to a portal, gives contacts of foreign and Ukrainian humanitarian hubs. So it's a way you can go. It's kind of a one-stop shop place that you can get all your information and choose which one of, if any, of the charities are worthy of your contributions. And I hope you find something that is suitable and goes, because some people don't want the money going to the military. All right, they want it going to the citizens. Some want it going to hospitals. Some want it going to kids. So that portal gives you a chance to define that. Now, this came in just 42 minutes ago. Convoy from this is from the perspective of a Belarusian truck driver who's in line in Poland trying to get back into Belarus. Okay, these trucks are lined up. Sorry, these trucks are lined up here, and they've been delayed because there's a big picket line going on at the border, not letting Belarusian trucks into Poland, or if they're in Poland, not letting them back out of Poland, disrupting any potential movements. And this is a fairly significant, and we got two views of it, fairly significant American convoy. Let me slide down, since this is a TikTok and not a twit. Let me see if I've got the volume up. I do.
Со стороны Польши, в сторону границы. НАТО.
Now this is, again, these trucks are in line waiting to cross the border between Poland and Belarus, and significant number of American troops moving in that direction. I'm assuming just to remind Belarus and their Russian allies that indeed the United States military is sitting right over here. And again, I've got a second version of that as well from another truck right here.
Дурачок скоро, блядь. Здоровый сосед, блядь. Что морду попрятали? Пушилки? Так пизды давно не получали. Стопудово. Куда стопудово? Ёбаная душа. Знаешь? Да? Позакрывались, стыкотно, они даже не тут страшного.
So a fairly significant column. Again, I think probably just probably just positioning themselves. And this came in 46 minutes ago. Positioning themselves to remind Russia that you've bitten off more than you can chew, and you don't want to bite off any more. Whether that message will get through or not, and we have a potential problem here. We have a potential problem here in potential problem here in the United States, and we've got a divided country. I don't think anybody would even question that. The divisions are manufactured, but that doesn't make them any less real or damaging or motivation for those that are seeking to be in a dominant position. It doesn't make any of that any less worrisome just because the ideas are manufactured. And I don't bring it up just out of the blue. We've got some things we have to talk about. There we go, so everybody can read. 4 weeks ago, Sean Walker flew out of Kharkiv, and his taxi driver that took him to the airport was 100% skeptical there would be a war. 36 hours later, it started. I think that's what will happen in America. Only I don't think most people realize that we are at any moment in that 36-hour period where something could happen. Now, I've been talking about the cyber attacks on potential infrastructure and things, and Biden put out 2 warnings yesterday, another one today. And the wording of the warnings are, I keep telling everybody that we're not important. We're nobody. We're anonymous. Okay. We do not matter on anything that really truly matters. We don't matter. All right. With that being said, I don't think that people realize how close we are to something happening here, and I'm gonna talk about it, but it's just Ukraine with Russia sitting on the doorstep still didn't think anything was going to happen. I'm going to play some things that make me have little doubt that something's going to happen. As far as the cyber thing goes, I think that Washington's concern are the political, the governmental, the Pentagon especially, and then big business. I don't think they really are concerned about, what's going to happen to us, or they would be laying it all out there that, look, this could happen, this could happen, and this could happen. That's why I'm laying it out there that, if something happens, don't freak out, first of all. Okay. Know that it's probably a cyber attack, and it's going to be a limited thing, whether it's you're without internet, whether it's you're without power, whatever it may be. Just know that this is probably what's happening, and I'm not going to freak out over it, because so many people that aren't aware, and this is him kind of trying to bring this all together. So many people that aren't aware how close we are to war when or if the power went out for an extended period of time, which would take the internet down, which would take water supply down, which would take pumping gas down. A lot of things tied to electricity that we don't normally think about. If that were to happen, the QAnon people are already going to blame it on whoever's not QAnon. Okay, that's dangerous to begin with. Then you've got people that just, have no clue what's happening, and they're just going to start taking advantage of anything and everything. And chaos could rapidly ensue. So, while that may be a lot better than a nuclear war, it's not good, and we don't want it. And the harder Anonymous is working on Russia, the better it is for us, because Russia doesn't have time to do any more than they've already prepared for, because they've already got things laid into the infrastructure of the United States. And how extensive, how effective, we don't know. But we really don't want to find out, but we're going to have to, because there is going to be a confrontation. This is not about the Ukraine. So tell your friends, tell your relatives, watch a few episodes, okay? And don't freak out. Just know what may come. And by the way, have somebody, if your power goes out. The other night, my power went out right at midnight on the dot. And I had somebody that I could contact in another part of the state and ask, have you got power? So that I knew it was, it was local, it wasn't mass. And try to think about things like that. All right. Always keep your phone charged. You know all the stuff already. I talked about it for 2 years now. A really interesting map as the way Ukraine stands right now. All the territories in yellow are Ukrainian territories. This is the actual border of Ukraine. This area known as the Donbass and Crimea down here, they have been under Russian control since 2019. And I'm sorry, 2014. And the areas you see in yellow, other than the Donbass and Crimea, these are areas where Russia has primarily sealed off from the rest of Ukraine. Thus, they're Russian-held territories. It doesn't mean that there's, a Russian every 5 feet in all of this area. So you can see how wide the area is, and then you can see how big Ukraine is. And I got to take my fingers off of the computer. Let me get up there. Come on. Okay. You can see how big Ukraine is, and how many soldiers it would take to totally occupy this entire country. Okay. Let alone just surround Kyiv. While at the moment, if compared to a lot of the maps you'll see on mainstream TV, the red arrows that keep, look like they're, going to be crunching on Kyiv any time. You see this area, there's a whole lot more blue here than there is yellow. And over the past 48 hours, the Ukrainian troops and some freedom fighters have been pushing back the Russian troops, and they now have a significant number of them all but encircled, if not encircled. Okay. It's hard to get information because, one guy on the ground's on one side of the circle and the other guy on the ground's on the other side of the circle. And they're both saying, I don't know if we got him encircled, but if not, which will be a massive, huge win if indeed that proves to be true. Meanwhile, in Great Britain, Tory, which is a political party, ministers of parliament voted to make it a criminal offense for Ukrainian families to arrive in the UK without the right papers, with a penalty of up to 4 years in prison, at a time when the British people have made clear that we need to help Ukrainian refugees. This is deeply shameful. Yes, it is. And we have Republicans who are committing incredible shame here in our country of America. And so there are problems all over the world. I'll just leave it at that at the moment instead of going off on a tangent. I just wanted to show you this. And this is indeed a Russian soldier. He's holding a my gosh, I forget what they're even called. I'm sorry, it just escaped me. Bolt action rifle. Thank you. I know somebody's out there screaming it at me. It's a bolt action rifle. It's a bolt. Yeah. And it's not modern battlefield equipment. Not that there aren't places for, bolt action rifles and long range, but I don't think it's a sniper setup. So I think it's really, they don't have the ammunitions. The corruption there was a lot worse than anybody thought. Because this gun goes back to 1941. Okay, just to be clear. And the only thing to fear is the nuclear option. And I showed you the, what I called it, WWE meets Hitler. It looks so much like the Nuremberg rallies, the old footage of the Nuremberg rallies when Hitler was, trying to persuade through propaganda that, Russia or that Germany was the superior race on earth and everything else was subhuman. And that's what we heard from Putin last Friday in the stadium. And this is right outside the stadium for those that thought, oh, well, maybe the people that were there anyway, they weren't really, can you imagine somebody treating the American flag that way? Coming out of a Trump rally? So you get the idea that, that's bad. But at the same time, the polling that we're getting out of Russia, which, you're going to have to take it with a grain of salt to begin with. And it's probably, you're going to have to take it with a pile of salt the size of Lot's wife. But is that, basically 82% of the people in Russia are for what's happening in Ukraine. They've been fed a lot of, Ukraine is subhuman for a number of years. And this Z thing is not, it's not anything new. It's just new to us. And anyway, let's move on. A lot of stuff to cover. Poland's on a plan of peacekeeping mission of NATO countries to Ukraine. One of the documents says that there can be up to 10,000 troops to help establish green corridors and no-fly zones above bigger cities. The U.S. is going to have to approve that, and I hope they do. I hope the U.S. does approve that. Okay. We showed you a big convoy moving towards the Polish border with Belarus from the American side. This is Russian armored trains bringing in reinforcements to Ukraine from the other side of the country. Pop over here real quick. These are coming up through Crimea. All right, they're coming across and coming up through Crimea, whereas the American convoy that you saw is right in here, and the Russian convoy you saw last night is right there. So I'm not going to say any more than they know each other's whereabouts, and Reuters. Now Reuters, and I've said it on here before, Reuters has Russian ties. Reuters is a partner of TASS, and the words he actually used, Russia would only use nuclear weapons if its existence were threatened. That's not what he says. And I think it might be Reuters' way of playing it down. And I just wanted to make you aware of it because it's such a subtle thing that we might miss. You've probably heard this already. In case you haven't, though, President Zelensky of Ukraine is to join the NATO summit virtually on March 24th. He'll be there over video. Israel radar high alert across Israel for copycat attacks after an ISIS-inspired terrorist murdered 4 people in Beersheba. The video shows an assailant repeatedly stabbing a woman during a killing spree. Security forces are prepared for a major eruption of violence in the coming weeks. Just that, just kind of letting you know everything that's going on everywhere, because I call this a possible prelude to World War III. We're not in World War III. World War III is not just going to be one country. And this was never about, it was never just about Ukraine, solely about Ukraine at the moment. But big picture, the Pentagon says the U.S. is constantly monitoring Russian nuclear movements. We know that. We showed you the other night the plane on the way up and explained it last night, where it went and why it went. Keeping an eye on Russian movements. And by the way, no one's really asked about it or, whatever, but Russia does have a much bigger navy than Ukraine's navy. Ukraine's navy is all but non-existent, and I touched on it in one episode. They purposely sank their biggest ship just to make sure Russia couldn't commandeer it and use it against them. And Russia's only got 1 aircraft carrier at the moment, and it's caught on fire twice in the past 2 years. Or past 3 years. I think it was 2019 and 2020 or 2021. And it's in dry dock and will not be in service until at least 2023. So if the war happens to be going on still by then, and it very well could. Remember, the United States didn't get involved in the Second World War for almost 3 years, and we had to be attacked to do it. These are different times, and primarily one of the main reasons they're different times is because of the internet. But Okay. Indiana Senator Todd Braun told reporters today the issue of abortion should be left to each state to decide. And a follow-up, he said the U.S. Supreme Court shouldn't have legalized interracial marriage nationally. Instead, it should have been up to individual states. He's assuming that Indiana probably is so racist that they would go along with not having interracial marriages. Donald Trump was just the figurehead of this movement to legitimize hate, okay? Legitimize hate and convince white Americans, specifically white American males, and, you know, some alpha Karen females got influenced as well. And the whole movement is just based upon hate. Okay. I don't know if it's hate manufactured for the purpose of control or hate manufactured for the purpose of greed. They both kind of go hand in hand. But there is a lot of hate in the world, and they don't need Trump anymore. They will be the ones to make sure Trump never comes close to power again. And we're in a very dangerous time in this country, in my opinion. And we are seeing the portion of the Republican Party that is racist, homophobic, misogynist, want to control everything about everybody's life, and then do whatever they want because they have the power. The Trump wing of the party, okay, the QAnons, the Trumps. It doesn't mean all Republicans are like that. And the question is, how many of them are there? They're identifying themselves, you know. I mean, it's easy to see. I'm not saying I'm putting a list together and you know, putting a hit list together. We got a story about that coming up. This is something we got to be aware of, and each election is said it's the most important election in a lifetime, and every time the choices are between bleh and bad. We got to do better as a country, first of all, in making sure we have more choices than just bleh and bad. But that's going to take some time. Immediately, we've got to focus on trying to remove as much of the cancer that the Tea Party Trump movement brought into this country of ours as we possibly can. I'm going to leave it for that at the moment, because more stories and more asshattery. Braun's not the only Republican that, and I'm not going to touch on the Supreme Court hearings because it's getting covered by everybody. I will just say Ted Cruz did everything but make sure that the whole world knew she was a black woman. Okay. That's the only thing he didn't do was go, look, I can't believe we're having this conversation because she's a black woman. All right. She should automatically not be qualified. And instead of recognizing her as the most highest level of qualification the American Bar Association gives, they treat her like, you've seen, if you've been watching this, her get disrespected. And that's just my opinion. You may think living in a country where it is not, we're supposed to have freedom and it's not supposed to matter what your faith is, that an absolute hypocritical trying to be somebody that he's not. Lindsey Graham, first question is, what's your faith? Would you mind telling us what faith you are? What faith are you? It's not supposed to matter. That is the separation of church and state. As a U.S. Senator, he should know that. Sorry, this wasn't planned. Getting off my horse for now, because too many other chances for me to mount and get back in the saddle and talk about crap. Buses in Mississippi, sorry, I'm a little fired up. And I found out somebody ran a chart on me and said, this is a bad time to be a Sagittarius because, anyway, because you easily get agitated. And I've been easily getting agitated for about 2.5 years now. Before that, I got agitated, just not quite as easy. But this is happening in Minneapolis. School teachers are on strike, wanting higher wages and probably wanting Trump to quit calling them communists and socialists when many of them are indeed Republicans. This was going to be one of the top stories tonight before the tornado hit in New Orleans about 15 minutes before I was ready to come on. This is footage of what happened in Granger, Texas yesterday, and as a result of a tornado. And I mentioned this earlier, but just to retouch on it, this came out 6 hours ago. U.S. government again warned of possible cyber attacks by Russia in retaliation for sanctions. Please stay with me, because just when you think, my gosh, what more could there be? The Inspector General has identified 41 sheriff's deputies from the East Los Angeles station who allegedly belong to gang-like groups. We've talked about this on here before. You put this information with the information that police departments all over the country aren't sending their things into the FBI. They're not sharing information with the FBI. I mean, some are. Don't get me wrong. It's not like no police department anywhere is. Not enough are. Okay, that they can put together just an estimate of where crime's at. Okay. It may not be troubling to you. If you connect the dots, it's at least one of those. If the power goes off, the police are going to tell you they're in charge. And then it becomes, there's not enough policemen to stand up against a well-armed militia. And then it becomes the well-armed militia's in charge. And then comes terrorists are standing up against the unarmed militia, or against the armed militias who are in charge. And then we become a third world nation. And President Ulysses S. Grant, let me make sure this is big enough here. Well, of course, get rid of this if I can. Please. Thank you. All right. President Ulysses S. Grant, who was president during the Reconstruction, or really post-Reconstruction. Johnson was president when all the Reconstruction legislation was implemented. He was Lincoln's vice president. U.S. President Ulysses S. Grant predicted that the next Civil War would be, quote, between patriotism and intelligence on one side, and superstition, ambition, and ignorance on the other side. Sinclair Lewis said, when fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in a flag and carrying a cross. The latest from Q. Now, I'll say it. I've said it. I'll keep saying it. QAnon is nothing more than a Russian propaganda machine. They keep saying the same thing over and over, keeps recycling the same things over and over. And some people have fallen for it. And you may never get them back. You may never get them back. Depends on what happens. If all of this ends without a civil war and we can unravel things, yeah, you might get them back. But if things collapse, they will be the ones that might try to kill you first. As unbelievable and horrific as it sounds, keep in mind these people believe that Elvis, Michael Jackson, and I don't remember who the other one was, visited Trump in the White House, and that John F. Kennedy Jr. was going to be his vice president, despite being dead for over 20 years in a plane crash. So these people have lost touch with actuality, okay, because they have a reality, but it's been taught to them, okay? Just to prove what I'm talking about, here's this premiered, as you can see down here, March 21st, so premiered yesterday.
Welcome.
First of all, let's go back to Sinclair Lewis real quick. Fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in a flag and carrying a cross, okay? Welcome to this Christian Patriot News Update. Carrying a cross, wrapped in a flag. It's 11 minutes and 22 seconds of repeating things that were posted 3 years ago, and someone trying to, and it talks like that, trying to bring new meaning to these posts. This is what it really meant. Okay, now we know this is what it really meant. Now we know this is what it really meant. Just going to play a few seconds of this.
To this Christian Patriot News Update, let's get started by taking a look ahead at these upcoming 3 Now pay attention. Q says, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. 3 Maydays. Democracy matters. The will of the people. Unite.
Okay, that's what these messages are. And these people are like, yeah, okay, I got it. And it's a giant echo chamber where these people that have the sites, they're making a little bit of money. I mean, this guy got 73,000 views since yesterday. Okay. They're making some money on each one of these videos. They're making money off of these people, conning them by just echo chamber, just saying the same things over and over and over. And some of these people, you know, they're so desperate to learn more, to know what's going to happen next, that they end up watching all these things, and it just ingrains in their head.
In March 23rd of 2019. So an upcoming 3-year delta to the day on Wednesday. Now pay attention. Q says Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. 3 Maydays.
It's the exact same guy, okay, on a completely different site, doing the exact same thing. And this guy's probably getting really well, he's getting compensated really well for what he's doing just from advertising alone, okay, and from just from views. It's something to be aware of. How many of them are there? What are they willing to do? I don't have that information yet. One thing I will tell you that I think personally is a positive is that, and I'm going to tag this episode, if I remember to, I'm going to tag it with Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, and 3%ers, because I think a lot of them realized that they were first lied to, they were used, and then they were hung out to dry. Not all of them. Some of them are still going to be loyal to Trump, loyal to whoever Trump and O'Bannon and Mickey Flynn and whoever, you know. A lot of them are smart people. A lot of them have military experience. A lot of them have backgrounds, and they're going to go, whoa, you know, wait a minute. This is what we were told, and now we're being hung out to dry. We're being abandoned, and absolutely nothing worked out the way you said it was going to, except for us going to prison while you're out trying to make $100 million, get people to give you an extra $100 million from your donations so you can buy a plane. Not, you know, the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers, they weren't the Qs, all right? Some might have been, there's crossover, but most of them, that's not what they were about. They were about guaranteeing freedom, which they thought Trump was going to do. Now they're realizing it wasn't freedom, it was fascism. He was trying to sell us on trying to be Russian. And Fox has realized that too. You're going to see Fox shift their hatred, okay, from America and Ukraine. They're going to shift their hatred to Black people and brown people, okay? Just look for it. Next 48 hours, that's where the shift's going to come, because they weren't making any money trying to convince Americans that they're Russian. And you're not going to do that to 3%ers, Oath Keepers, and real true patriots who might have a liberal view. There may be a whole bunch more. There may be a lot more of us liberal patriots, liberal coming from liberty, conservative coming from con and serve. You're either being conned into serving somebody, or you're trying to con somebody into serving you. That's how conservatism works. Liberal coming from liberty. There may be some gun-toting, knowledgeable liberals out there that don't necessarily have to flaunt their presence, but yet when push comes to shove, understand the meaning of standing up for your country. I don't know, maybe we ought to start a group. Maybe we ought to just show everybody, hey, we've got possibly the absolute biggest contingent in America, because there are probably 40% of that 70%. Okay, 100% America. 30% of them are going to be diehard Trumpers. That leaves 70%. Okay, 30% we shouldn't organize a group and show everybody, because we want them to think that everybody is a wuss and gay, and not that gay people aren't going to fight, because if push comes to shove, okay, and women, and don't think don't think women won't fight, especially when they're seeing what's beginning to happen to women's rights. Sorry, I'm getting worked up again. Get back to the news. Just be aware. Just be aware things could kick off at any minute. And it's important to have connections. I don't have a lot of them. It's important. I mean, I do news wise, but as far as survival wise, no. But you really should. You really should. The a new Army unit will combine military intelligence with open source data. Just so that, and I just put that up there because I've had people question, well, where do you get your stuff from? And, you're making it up and blah, 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 blah. But the government has seen the power and the quickness and the care that information is handled with open source intelligence, because it's primarily made up of people that are either politically astute, militarily astute, or air or navy astute. And okay, I mentioned the Proud Boys earlier. The Department of Justice indicates that they may add several additional defendants to the Proud Boys conspiracy case. As I said, as this stuff starts to come out, these people are going to go, whoa, we were conned into serving by conservatives. How did we not see it coming? And they're going to be pissed. And they will make lists, and they will kidnap people, and they will hold their own trials. How do I know that? People are on trial right now for that, being charged with such things. Neo-Nazi cell formed at Camp Lejeune, relocated as a group to Idaho, and plotted terror attacks, had a hit list. This is why I said earlier, people have hit lists, and included a cop among their ranks. 2 members of the neo-Nazi terror network, BSN, accused of plotting an attack on the power grid and targeting Black Lives Matter leadership. You know what? It shouldn't be a surprise to us. It just fits with everything I've been telling you. We got to be ready as a country, and we're not, and we won't be, and we need to make sure we somehow can all stay in connection. Bonus. Joseph Zacharek, police officer from Lafayette, Indiana, was involved in the network before it was broken up. So that came in 13 hours ago. Might be seeing that on mainstream media in the next day or two. And again, we had the teachers. Okay, this is a Russian soldier laying face down, being taken prisoner, and the story behind this, his name's Misha, and these guys are operating on cell phones. Okay, we've played intercepted cell phone footage from everybody from rapists to generals, and Ukraine's been saying, if anybody, if you want to surrender, come and surrender, and we'll treat you humanely. And this guy calls. He'd been left there by himself, and no resupplies coming. Everybody else is dead, and he called him back and he said, I'll surrender and I'll give you my tank and I'll stay POW for the length of the war. And then once the war's over, you give me $10,000 and Ukrainian citizenship, and I'll surrender right now. And that's what you saw happening. Belarus is not real happy with what's going on in their country as Russia is dominating it and basically telling Belarus what they're going to do. Might not be a bad idea to get some of those British NLAWs, those in-law missiles up there around Russian installations, and offer the Belarusians a little bounty. I don't know if you remember or not, but Putin had a bounty on the troops in Afghanistan. He was going to pay the Taliban, I think it was $12,000 for every American troop they killed. And Donald Trump did nothing about it. Didn't even ask Putin about it. Didn't even say, what the hell is this? Little things that sometimes slip our minds that we need reminded of. So it's going to get to a place where evil is perceived as good and good is declared evil. The good guys are going to be the bad guys. The bad guys are going to be the good guys. It's simplifying it. And I personally am looking really hard at who the good guys are and the bad guys are, because I don't want to wait till it's already happening to know. Again, so much to get through. Russian President Vladimir Putin said he's conceded that Russia has yet to achieve any of its military goals in Ukraine and refused to deny that Moscow could resort to the use of a nuclear weapon. Okay. I told you Reuters, I showed you the Reuters thing, and I said, this isn't exactly what he said. The Reuters makes it seem like Russia has to be threatened with its own existence, their guns, everything, before they would ever consider using nukes. It's a lie. It's not true. It's no more true than Russia saying, we don't mean anybody no harm. We're not going to invade Ukraine. This is what he really said. The chief spokesman for Putin conceded that Russia has yet to achieve any of its military goals and refused to deny that Moscow could resort to the use of nuclear weapons. Okay. Russia's paramilitary Wagner Group, or Wagner Group, I think they've been, I think I get a little intelligence. This guy may not know. He's back at the Pentagon. I'm getting information from the ground. They're now called LIGA, Liga, and they've suffered about 4,500 casualties at the moment. I've heard different from this as well, that there are Syrian fighters starting to come in, 150 to 300 at a time, but they're not sure that now that it's happening, neither Russia nor Syria is sure that it was a good idea. So that may get chalked up to the propaganda machine and not actually come to fruition like some may expect. And speaking of the propaganda machine, the Russian propaganda machine said that Wally, the Canadian sniper we showed arriving, that he was dead and Russians killed him, and wasn't true at all. He was simply in blackout mode, as you would probably expect. And I didn't speak to him. I want to give credit for this. This is from Ashley Stewart. She's a journalist, Canadian journalist, and lived in numerous places. And earlier when I was talking about the bolt action rifle, and I couldn't remember what it was called, this is more what I would think a worthy bolt action rifle for today's modern warfare might be, instead of what that Russian soldier was holding. So he is very much alive, and will be back out doing his thing very soon. Colonel General Mikhail Misevich is commanding the siege of Mariupol. This is the guy that's responsible for everything that's happening in Mariupol. He also led the operation in Syria, which of course resulted in Aleppo. He's the head of the National Defense Management Center of Russia, and he destroys Mariupol as he used to reduce Syrian cities to rubble. I'm sorry, but it just looks like this is just, it almost becomes like an Austin Powers movie. You know, we've got Putin is going to fly off to a secret underground city underneath the Ural Mountains in the doomsday scenario. You got this guy, I mean, look at it. It looks like his head has been photoshopped onto a kid's body. It's just, I don't know. It's just like we're watching a movie. This is some kind of joke. This isn't really happening in 2022. We're not having, tensions within ourselves there in the country. We're not seeing a terroristic Russian regime try to steamroll across Europe a la Hitler in 1938. But and this guy looks like he should be from Central Casting. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it just like, what? This guy's the guy that's responsible for all of those thousands of deaths, for putting the people of Mariupol in the conditions they're in. That this guy, we let somebody that this guy. We could be entering a time period where everybody that tries to be somebody, tries to acquire some kind of power, finds that simply becomes a target on their back from either side of what they have helped create. Just something to think about. I just can't. This is the Russian embassy in Poland, and I don't know if they're talking about this on mainstream or not, but smoke was seen coming out of the back of the building, reminiscence of the smoke that we reported on coming out of the back of the Russian embassy in Kyiv, Ukraine, when they were burning the documents and getting ready to evacuate the embassy. That does not mean that Russia is burning documents and getting ready to evacuate the embassy. But if I had a gun to my head and say, you got to bet what's happening here, Russia's burning the documents and getting ready to evacuate the embassy. Smoke can be seen coming from the embassy in the Polish capital. Claims Russian diplomats are burning documents. Again, yeah. We had that night. For those that question, for those that believe Donald Trump is a great president and a great thinker, and you believe, my brain is huge. I want you to think about this for just a moment. And for everybody else, imagine if this happened with Kid Rock, Ted Nugent, and Sarah Palin. That's who's in the room when Kid Rock's talking about. Imagine what this freaking idiot Trump gave to Putin, either knowingly or unknowingly, just because I've got to show him what a great diplomat, what a great leader I am. It terrifies me. He said on the visit, Trump had maps spread out, and he was looking at maps. And Kid Rock said, I'm like, am I supposed to be in on this shit? And Trump says, what do you think we should do about North Korea? And Kid Rock's like, I'm like, what? I don't think I'm qualified to answer this. For those that don't know, that is not how the commander-in-chief of the United States military, that is not how the leader of the free world is expected to behave. Just saying, okay? You spent 4 years watching Trump be an asshat, and now you can't understand why Joe Biden is being presidential and feel like you need to critique him on it, when there are enough things to be critiqued without making something up just to fit your agenda. Fox has got that covered for you. Again, that little puppet head. 9 hours ago, earthquake in eastern Taiwan, magnitude 6.9. There was no tsunami. U.S. citizen Evan Newman, who was storming the American Capitol a year ago. Now, this is the other thing. There are going to be a bunch of really honked off former militia. I don't think this guy's former militia. But he's going home. He's decided that, he was Russian all along. He's going to Belarus, the Bell of Russia. Okay. Now he's receiving refugee status because he's been charged with crimes here. So he stated that he feels safe there in Belarus and plans to do business. He is a spy. He is now a Belarusian asset. How many more will follow those footsteps? I doubt very many, honestly, because I think these people really truly believe they're patriots. And I think a lot of them are going to come around to the fact that we were conned, and the real patriotic thing to do is get rid of the frickin' cons. And that could be really dangerous for the cons of the conservative movement. Again, you're either conning somebody into serving you, or you're serving somebody that has conned you. It's really pretty simple. What is not simple is the last thing I've got here for tonight. I think it's the last thing. Let me make sure. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Again, Wally's not the only sniper in Cashapp. Okay. I'll show this. I'll show part of this anyway. This is from yesterday in Texas. Been a bad few days as far as tornadoes. Keep your eye on this truck right here. It's just got flipped over onto its side, flipped back over. And the dude drives away. Okay. Well, so that might be I don't know if that was a Dodge Ram, if that was a built Ford Tough, or a Chevy, but that might be grounds for a commercial there. Okay. Just so much happens in a 24-hour period, and that one I've got to get to. This one I've got to touch on, simply because a lot of people don't know this, and this isn't trying to stir anything up or anything like that. This is just the facts that people born 20 plus years ago, 20 to 30 years ago, probably have no idea that up until 1947, this is what the landmass that is now called Israel was. Palestine, with Jerusalem here. It was deemed Palestine. And Palestine was on the wrong side of the war in World War II. And in 1948, almost all of this became, I take that back. In 1948, a small part of this became Israel. And Israel fought and reclaimed much of the land that is now Israel. They've given some of it back. But if I had more time, I'd go into more depth. But I want to make sure we get to this. And I'm going to lead with this tomorrow night. I should have led with it tonight, but the tornadoes devastating New Orleans. This is important stuff. This is stuff we need to hear, because this is what Russia is hearing. Okay, let me make sure I got us all the way up.
В Европе надо передать простую вещь. Вы получите ядерный удар по территории Европы в случае, если вы соберетесь там с какой-нибудь миротворческий контингент НАТО создать, в случае, если вы соберетесь его куда-то там вводить и прочее.
Okay. We're going to dissect this again. All right. We've said that Poland has said we are going to organize a coalition of the willing, if you will, and put in up to 10,000 NATO troops, none of them American, and they're going to provide safe corridors for civilians to leave areas of conflict, and possibly a no-fly zone over the bigger cities. All right. And they start out to Europe. There's a simple thing we need to tell Europe. You will get a nuclear strike if you gather some kind of peacekeeping contingent by NATO. All right. Saber rattling. Hopefully.
Если вы соберетесь там с какой-нибудь миротворческий контингент НАТО создать, в случае, если вы соберетесь его куда-то там вводить и прочее, да, это будет ядерная война. А это было и сказано. Это будет ядерная война. Вы должны это понимать.
And this is what was told by the French. You need to understand that. Macron, the president of France, has been talking to both Putin and Zelensky, trying to broker some kind of understanding. I think the last I read was He's spoken to both of them 8 times apiece, and they just keep telling him the same things. Zelensky tells him, tell Russia to lay down their arms, get out of our country, and the war's over. And Putin tells him, you do anything, we're going to nuke you. And so the French have supposedly told the rest of NATO that that's what's on the table.
Значит, храбрые поляки, от вашей Варшавы не останется за полсекунды ничего. Храбрые немцы, так сказать, да. Храбрые эстонцы, храбрые прибалты. Кстати, по поводу храбрых прибалтов.
Okay, he's threatening to bomb Warsaw in Poland. He's threatening to bomb Berlin. He's going to. He's saying they're going to bomb Estonians and Baltics. He's trying to get any sympathizers in those countries to rise up so that they aren't bombed. Keep that in mind when the Putin people try to get Q to rise up so that we don't get bombed, that it's all connected. It's all connected. It's not about Ukraine.
Эстонцы, храбрые прибалты. Кстати, по поводу храбрых прибалтов. Вот в Калининграде, я знаю, сейчас большие проблемы на границе. Может быть, актуальным становится вопрос коридора до Калининграда?
Okay. Kaliningrad. Establish a border, or establish a corridor, is what he said. All right. Here's Kaliningrad. Okay. It is considered a Russian oblast. It is surrounded by Poland on one side, the sea on the other, and Lithuania on the other. What he is saying is Russia plans on taking a part of here and a part of here, and getting a corridor to connect Kaliningrad to Belarus so that they can ship directly to the Baltic Sea port here. Okay, that's what he's talking about when he says corridor to the overland corridor to Kaliningrad, just so that we understand geographically what he's talking about. Okay.
Коридор, сухопутного коридора до Калининграда. А почему нет? Если что переднюю сторону,
Okay, I'm not going to keep stopping this.
Слишком нагло. Слишком нагло. И понимают еще, так сказать, да, что вот на самом деле с ними можно разобраться быстрее, чем с Украиной. Потому что вопрос коридора – это вопрос локальной военной операции, это гораздо проще, чем все то, что мы сейчас затеяли на Украине. В Европе надо передать.
I also have one, I'm not going to go play. I also have one where they're talking about lobbing missiles into London and Washington, D.C. But again, it's saber rattling at the moment. I've told you from the start, I think he's going to cross that line. I hope not. I'd really like to be wrong. This is the area I was telling you about. I've been talking about the past few days. This little area right here where, this little area right here. I didn't have it out enough. No. This little area right here, Poland, Belarus, and Ukraine right there. All right. We've got the American, we've got a couple of columns or a fairly strong column of Americans right here. We've got Belarus and Russians right here. Their intended goal, we assumed, was to come down and cut off the supply lines here. There's a little concern now that their intended goal is to invade Poland, and the American forces are there as a deterrent. So that's this or that's the area I've been talking about. This area is just outside of Kyiv. I'm sorry, it's getting late. This area is just outside of Kyiv, and this is the area that I had mentioned earlier that they thought they have surrounded. We've got reports that they've got troops. They've taken back Imprim, and they've got a group surrounded up in here. Okay, a fairly large Russian contingent that they're kind of squeezing in right there. And again, Imprim. So you get an idea between the two maps, the geography of where we're talking about. And it's key that they defeat these people here because that just gives more time to guarantee the security of Kyiv. They've been active since the first morning of the invasion, started at 4 a.m. with the first missile hit. These are just some of the regular soldiers, if you will. I'm not going to say who they're affiliated with. Biden sees clear signs Russia preparing a false flag attack in Ukraine to pave the way to use chemical biological weapons. U.S. intel is across Kremlin comms. So we know based on intercepts, that makes it all the more worrying. Biden says Putin's back against the wall. Yes, it is. This is showing, this is Kyiv and kind of the areas around Kyiv. You can see Kyiv's not threatened at all from the south or the east, from the northeast, from the northwest. And if indeed this group has been encircled and thus cut off from supplies, resupply, that could be a massive force in being neutralized, taken out of action, and they may run out of room. Ukraine may have to figure out some other way of storing, of accommodating prisoners. Now, I was told, I'm not a missile expert, as all of you know, never claimed to be one. I was told this is really a rare situation that this missile we're about to see is used more of a tank missile, but it actually takes out a small Russian patrol ship, which you can kind of see right at.
Попади, брат. Есть, сука! Пизда ему.
You can see it out there smoking.
Давай,
And
Петрович.
so they move forward and go in for the kill shot.
Он дальше уходит прямо. Блядь. Вправо он идет, видишь его?
I don't know. You may get that on mainstream medias, but this is the kind of thing you only find here. And again, thank you all for watching. I got just a couple of more things to touch on. I know there's a bunch in each episode, but because there are a lot of things happening in the world now. While I talked about the possibility of different wings, if you will, of the Republican Party. Here in Indiana, Indiana's governor stopped the transgender athlete ban. He stopped discrimination against LGBTQ community, and he's catching heat for it from Mike Braun, the very Mike Braun we quoted earlier, is saying that states ought to determine what a woman's rights are, and states ought to determine who a woman can marry and can't marry. And good old Jim Banks, who's just so full of hate, he almost comes out of his nose on a regular basis. This was a little concerning. According to co-organizer and trucker Ron Coleman, the People's Convoy now has a new goal. It seems like Fox News has switched. They haven't yet, but they will. In the next 48 hours, there's going to be a whole lot less talk about Russia's great, yay, yay, Putin, and a lot more talk about, oh, look at, black people, brown people. We're going to have to, trust me. And if I'm wrong, I'll come back on and say, okay, I was wrong. The People's Convoy has a new goal. They're going to conduct citizens' arrests of metropolitan police officers and of the DC mayor. We have to put a summons out to the Metro PD and Mayor Bowser. We would do citizens' arrests of them. So that may be interesting to actually, I am going to go ahead and play this because I was going to save this for tomorrow night. This is the second one of the videos I was talking about that we're going to say is saber rattling, but at the same time, it's more than a bit disconcerting because of the way and the looseness that everything's being tossed around. And this is what Russia is seeing.
Если вы считаете, что мы остановимся на Украине, подумайте 300 раз. Напомню вам, что Украина – это всего лишь промежуточный этап в обеспечении стратегической безопасности Российской Федерации. У нас кончится терпение, мы просто запустим что-нибудь тяжелое в сторону Вашингтона и Лондона.
Польша доиграется. Было 3 раздела Польши. 4-й будет последний.
Границы России нигде не заканчиваются.
Придет время, и Польше ничего не останется. И от Прибалтики. Да, мне кажется, что государства под названием Литва и государства под названием Польша ведут себя слишком нагло. Слишком нагло. И не понимают еще, так сказать, да, что вот на самом деле с ними можно разобраться быстрее, чем...
Keyword there. It's not defeated in a war. It's not, it's suppressed. Okay? Suppressed. Now, I'm going to play the rest of this, because there's another minute or so and there's more information. But this guy gets going and he's not on script and he's just talking. He's saying what he feels. Look for the same things to happen with certain people that they may not swing over to the fact that they may still stay focused on this. And talking like Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay? People that are in the queues, all right? Tucker Carlson may stick with it. I don't know. I think Tucker Carlson's probably primary interest is Tucker Carlson. And he may be finding out that Russia's not a good ally for him and for his network. I may be really wrong. We'll find out in a few days. But the idea that this guy says suppressed, we'll suppress them even faster than we've suppressed Ukraine, even though you haven't suppressed Ukraine. You're telling your people that you have, but it's a big lie. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, Cotton, those kind of people, if they get angry and they just start talking and they're off script, and most of them are always off script, the chance of them actually saying things becomes more and more and more because they're getting agitated. Again, Anonymous made sure that Marjorie Taylor Greene knew they were coming. There was, I think, a total of, it was over 7,000, I believe, text messages and tweets that all just said, they all had only 2 words, expect us. So I think that'll just agitate her, if nothing else. And we might find out, we might find out a lot more about people over the next 2 or 3 weeks than we imagined. Okay, let me get back to this, but let me do it this way so we don't get knocked down again.
Если вы считаете, что мы остановимся на
We'll just go ahead and
Украине,
listen to the whole thing.
подумайте 300 раз. Напомню вам, что Украина – это всего лишь промежуточный этап в обеспечении стратегической безопасности Российской Федерации. У нас кончится терпение, мы просто запустим что-нибудь тяжелое в сторону Вашингтона и Лондона.
Польша доиграется. Было 3 раздела Польши. 4-й будет последний.
Граница России нигде не заканчивается.
Придет время, и Польше ничего не останется. И от Прибалтики. Да, мне кажется, что государство под названием Литва и государство под названием Польша ведут себя слишком нагло. Слишком нагло. И не понимают еще, так сказать, да, что вот на самом деле с ними можно разобраться быстрее, чем с Украиной.
Пускай пищат, кричат, да, это бомбардировщики, которые способны нести ядерное оружие, но у нас нет другого выхода.
Наши подлодки способны выпустить более 500 ядерных боеголовок, что гарантированно уничтожают США и все страны НАТО в придачу. Это по принципу «зачем нам мир, если в нем не будет России?»
This is the most troubling thing to me. Why do we need the world if there's no Russia in it? I've told you that those that watch this show on a regular basis, I've told you this. I heard in a briefing a guy say that they won't fire their ballistic missiles. They'll blow them up in their tubes. And the guy said, "You'll destroy Russia." And he said, "No, we'll destroy the world." And that could send us enough off of our regular orbit around the sun that we just start tracking closer and closer. It's horrific to think about any of that stuff. And yet here they are.
Сейчас вся российская триада переведена в особый режим боевого дежурства.
Если мы снова нашу армию подведем к западным границам, они трусливые, они боятся, их нужно брать испугом.
Again, the rhetoric, they need to be conquered with fear, with a whip.
Мы ни в коем случае не можем остановиться на полпути.
С такими санкциями, кто сказал, что надо останавливаться вообще в границах Украины?
Например, может выглядеть сценарий по, собственно, захвату.
I showed you this a few weeks ago. Again, this is a compilation. This isn't everybody speaking right now. This is what Russia has been hearing for some time. and some of it's within the past week. They think that Estonia, the UK has 987 troops in Estonia. Canada has 1,175 troops in Latvia, and Germany has 1,271 troops in Lithuania. And they want to open this corridor, the Solwalki corridor, okay, on this side and this side. That's what we showed on the map. That's what we were talking about. And to do so, they've got to take land from Poland and Lithuania. So just pointing that back out, because for some of you, this map will look familiar.
Прибалтики. Да и Россия – единственная страна в мире, которая реально способна превратить США в радиоактивный пепел.
So that's the attitude of the Russians. And is that the attitude of the people here in America who support Russia? This guy, he's going back to Belarus because he thinks that the court system here in America would find him guilty of sedition, trying to overthrow the government. And he's going to go to Russia. Kid Rock. I'm like, am I supposed to be in on this shit? No, dude. No. And you're not. And everybody else in the world knows it, except people with their heads so far up their own butts that, again, Russian embassy, burning documents, marionette version of Dr. Evil. Wally, one of the greatest sharpshooters and snipers in the world. The Wagner group, taking some casualties, heavy casualties. And they're saying no foreign fighters, but no foreign fighters of coincidence, okay? Maybe 100, 300, 450 Syrians. And I think both sides are deciding that, hey, Syrians are like, whoa, what's all this snow and cold stuff? We're not, we don't really want that. And Russia's looking at it like, hey, maybe this is not the best idea either. That could play out differently. They still could get 40,000 Syrians in there, but I think it's propaganda. Inspector General identifies 41 sheriff's deputies in East Los Angeles who are part of a gang. And I don't know if they would warn us as citizens, because I don't think we really matter, but they want to make sure companies know that they're cyber attacks. And in all honesty, I think that's where the attacks would be directed, towards financial institutions, towards companies, and towards the government, not towards individuals, unless it's the power grid. So I'm just scrolling back through, make sure I touch on some things in case people missed it. Top story of the night: tornadoes in a multi-vortex tornado. At least one touchdown in New Orleans, in the eastern part of New Orleans. Other tornadoes reported across various parts of the southeast, from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, into the Florida panhandle. And we'll watch out and keep an eye up for anything that may be happening. We haven't looked at flight radar. We're going to do that here before we close out. Again, I was hoping for like a 45-minute episode, and here it is, an hour and 42 minutes in, roughly. I think Jake is a 135, I think. Yeah, it's the 135 combat scent that we were monitoring the other night that ended up going up here, where many of the ICBMs are. I didn't want that. Okay. It's the same plane we were that was monitoring up in here 2 nights ago. And let me get back down to its path. Yeah. Flew out of England, flew out of Great Britain, and they were heading up that way. If you remember from a couple of nights ago, had a tanker with him. Now we see that keeping an eye on this region, the region we're talking about, Belarus, Ukraine, Poland. And he looks like he's turning around and going to start flying loops here. That seems to be, it looks like that's the only plane we've got up as far as those with their transponders on. Let's see what we've got here. Private owner. Is this Jamaica? Okay. Anyway, let's go back to Jake. C-135. Yeah, he's making a loop. Probably will fly. Probably will repeatedly fly this path to monitor what's going on in this section. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be keeping an eye on what's going on. I'll be keeping an eye on what's going on in the sky and monitoring other things as well as we, as I do here, and then bringing you kind of the highlights, I guess. Sometimes they're not highlights, sometimes they're horrific. So bringing you the most important things, and bringing you things that you're not going to get on mainstream, or probably anywhere else combined like we do here. I'm just doing a quick run to see if okay. Just checking to see if there's any new information, because it always seems like right as I end the show, I come back on to check the sites out and there's new things that have gone on. Pentagon, Russians lack not only ammunition and food, but also fuel for ships and warm clothes. Some of them are surrendering with frostbite. Let me make sure there's nothing else. Russian troops don't have body armor. When one of the conscripts complained, the commander said, "Son, be strong." He also said, "Look, being told not to destroy buildings, that's insanity. Unless we destroy everything and turn it into dirt along with civilians, then nothing good is going to happen." So, wow. I'm still going to say something good is going to happen. Well, hold on just a second before we get out of here. Let's take a look, because I might have already been proven wrong. Since we've started, Tucker Carlson has indeed come out. Oh, wait a minute. He's come out and done just what I said he was going to do. Somebody at the Eagles concert. My old friend, producer Kyle. Let me see what... let's get back down here and see what Tucker had to say. There we go. On tonight's show, he claimed that wow, the Ketanji Jackson is just a garden variety white liberal who's only come so far because of the way she looks. Okay, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I thought it might take a day or two. No, no, it was happening when I was saying this is what's going to happen. This is news done differently. Thank you for watching. I'm going to try tomorrow night. Try to put a better ponytail in. It's losing. I'm going to try tomorrow night to take some time at the end and have some questions. If anybody has anything to get into the chat and say hello. I will do that real quick right now. Hello to everybody in the chat. Kelvin Black, Sissy Thunder, GT Massive, Fred, what are you doing, man? T-Rex. Deborah Kent. Again, thank you all for watching. And tomorrow night, like I said, I was trying tonight to keep it to like 45 minutes and have a few minutes afterwards to answer any questions or to go more in depth on something that I flew by too quickly on. And I'm going to try to do that tomorrow night. But thank you all that are watching. I love you all. Thank you for those of you watching on the replays on the various platforms. And those of you in chat, especially, thank you so much. And we will be back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. And it'll be news done differently. Dark world, do try to be a light. I wish everybody blessings in the name of Jesus. If you are a fellow Christian, shalom, shalom, namaste, mir, brahm, konnichiwa. Thank you all for watching. I love you. And I wish you peace. This has been News Done Differently. We'll be back tomorrow night at 10. Thank you for watching.